Hello, welcome to this webinar for 2018 Applicants to Instrumental Access. I'm Christina Violas-Rivastava, and with me are Melissa Wu and Judo Ihirin. Together we run the application process and also serve as the primary points of contact for applicants to instrumental access. Today we're going to start off with a presentation about the program and some tips for applicants. And then we will go through a demonstration of how the application portal works. We invite you to ask questions throughout the webinar at any time. You can email them to us at application@seedinglabs.org. We will monitor that account live and do our best to address your questions as we receive them. We'll also pause for questions at the end. And if you're viewing the recorded version, please send any questions we don't address to that same email address, application@seedinglabs.org, and we will answer them as quickly as we can.
So, Seeding Labs was established as a US-based NGO in 2008. Our mission is to ensure that everyone worldwide has equal opportunity to make the scientific discoveries that improve life on our planet.
Instrumental Access is our flagship program. The goal is to make affordable, high-quality laboratory equipment available to universities in developing countries. To date, we've shipped 184 tons of equipment. That's been worth $7.1 million. And that's the value on the used market that we calculate for tax purposes. The cost to a university to obtain the same equipment is typically up to 4 times higher than that. And these shipments have gone to 62 partners in 33 countries. And we're just getting started. In 2016 and 2017, we had 14 and 12 shipments completed respectively, and we expect to continue at that pace or even go up in that pace in 2018 and 2019.
So how does our process work? I'll take you through an overview of that process. It starts with equipment donations, which we actively solicit. About half of our equipment comes from manufacturers, and the other half comes from end users such as pharmaceutical companies. Equipment and glassware can be new or gently used. Consumables are always in full, unopened cases. We're careful about what we accept. We look for surplus equipment likely to be of use in biology, chemistry, or related departments. We do not accept equipment that is broken, obsolete, or so highly customized that it couldn't easily be repurposed. All of the donated equipment comes to our warehouse where we inventory it and do functional testing as feasible in a warehouse setting. We select our partners via an application process. We'll see more about the details of the review and vetting process later in this webinar. Accepted participants assigned a window for equipment selection. We have an electronic shopping cart, and when it's your turn, you may select items from our inventory to build a shipment to meet your institution's needs. We'll explain more about what goes into a shipment in a few minutes. Once you start selecting equipment, we invoice your institution for the program fee. After we receive payments, the shipment is packed into a 20-foot shipping container and we schedule the shipment. We work with our partners, that is you, to make sure we're complying with all relevant customs regulations before and after shipping. For example, there are a few countries that require pre-inspection before the container is loaded. Then we ship to the nearest seaport or your preferred seaport. Time in transit usually ranges from a few weeks to 3 months, depending on distance and sailing schedules. Our partners are responsible for the customs clearance process on their end, transportation of the equipment from the port, and then installation and use of the equipment, as well as reporting to Seeding Labs. Instrumental Access is just the start of an ongoing partnership with Seeding Labs that we hope will continue indefinitely.
Okay, I'll speak a little bit about eligibility for instrumental access. Our first criterion for eligibility is that applicants must be based in a low and middle income country using the current World Bank classifications. The World Bank does typically recalculate those classifications over the summer. If your country changes categories, we will honor the original one. New this year, the handful of countries that are technically classified as high income but also eligible for World Bank lending may apply to our program this year as upper middle income countries. Please note that there is a list of low and middle income countries where we are unable to work due to legal or practical hurdles. They are listed on the slide. We regret that any exclusions are necessary, but we do have to comply with US law. Eligibility is also limited to 3 types of institutions. We work with academic departments at low and middle income country universities or other institutions of higher education. We work with research institutes that are closely affiliated with universities. And we also partner with publicly funded research institutes that also conduct substantial training activities. Within a university, we prefer to partner with academic departments, but we will consider other subunits such as schools or faculties or teaching units if there's a compelling reason that makes sense for your institution. If you would like to apply as something other than an academic department, we ask that you email us at application@seedinglabs.org so that we can provide specific guidance relevant to your situation. We do not limit eligibility by academic discipline, but your department or institution must have sufficient need for the items in our inventory, which are almost exclusively intended for use in biology and chemistry laboratories. The program is not typically a good fit for physics or computer science departments. We do sometimes partner with engineering departments, but usually in fields of engineering that are closely allied with biology and chemistry. We are not a good fit for a lot of other engineering disciplines. Because we are asked about this frequently, please note that we do not accept applications from individuals or individual lab groups. We do not accept applications from for-profit companies, from institutions located in the US or other high-income regions. We do not work with medical clinics or hospitals, the lone exception being academic research departments at teaching hospitals. And we do not work with primary or secondary schools. If you have any questions about eligibility, we strongly encourage you to contact us at application@seedinglabs.org before you apply, because we do know that our application process takes quite a bit of effort, and we don't want any of that effort to be wasted.
So what is our timeline? Since April this year, our application portal has been open and it will stay open through July. The deadline for submission is 27 July. And from August to November, we'll be having internal and external reviews of applications, interviews, and final selection. From December to February, we'll notify awardees, hold a detailed discussion of equipment needs. There'll be a signing of a letter of agreement, and then we'll be completing a background survey. The 2019 calendar year would include an equipment selection window, typically 3 weeks. An invoice will be sent at the beginning of the selection period. We'll ship out as soon as payment is received, usually between 2 and 5 months. Transit time is typical. We can work with you on scheduling your equipment selection window if you have constraints based on your institution's fiscal year. New this year, we are shifting to a model where we have 2 application windows per year. We expect the next application window will open in November 2018 with a deadline in February 2019. So if you can't make the July deadline, you won't have to wait a whole year to apply. So at this point, we would like to pause and we encourage you to ask questions. If you have any, please send your questions to the email address shown on the screen, application@seedinglabs.org.
All right, so I'll go over now. We mentioned a lot about the equipment that is distributed through this program. So what does a typical shipment look like? So there's actually no such thing as a typical shipment. Each shipment's composition varies to meet individual departmental needs. As Chudo mentioned, participants are assigned a selection window during which you can select equipment from our available inventory. In terms of value, on average, universities have selected equipment and consumables that are valued between $60,000 and $150,000 USD in the US marketplace. Again, we estimate that if you were to obtain the same equipment outside of the Instrumental Access Program, your university would typically spend between $230,000 and $500,000 to obtain that equipment. So how much equipment can you select? There are two constraints on the amount of equipment. One is a volume constraint. The equipment that you select must fit into a standard 20-foot shipping container. And you can see in the photos here some examples of shipments that we have sent out through the Instrumental Access Program. And you can fit a lot of equipment in a 20-foot shipping container. We also have additional guidelines to prevent any one participant from taking all of the most valuable or scarcest items in our inventory, and this is what we call the point system. In this system, each piece of equipment is given a points value based on our supply and demand. All participants are given the same number of maximum points. And in these, actually, I'll go to the next slide here. So this is an example of a typical, like one of the shipments that we've sent, and you can see that there's a range of different types of equipment that go into a shipment. As we mentioned before, our equipment is specialized for those doing research related to chemistry or biology. And we do have a variety of different kinds of equipment typically in our inventory, from chromatographs to balances and pipetters, various kinds of consumables like gloves, tubes, and dishes, and many types of glassware. Our inventory does fluctuate throughout the year, but participants can expect that during their selection window, they'll see a large subset of these types of equipment. You can see a list of the typical types of equipment that we have at the link on the bottom. And if you have any questions on whether you can expect that your equipment needs can be satisfied through our program, please do email us at application@seedinglabs.org. All right, so that's so what is the cost of the Instrumental Access Program? Participation in Instrumental Access is very economical. Participating departments pay a program fee that helps defray some of Seeding Lab's costs. This fee is adjusted to the income level of the country where your university is located. As you may remember from the previous slide, these fees are just a fraction of the cost of purchasing the equipment, either new or even off the used equipment market. The fee covers Seeding Lab services for administering Instrumental Access. These include our costs of equipment procurement, storage, handling, and the cost of shipping equipment from our door to your port by ocean freight. Your institution would be responsible for any fees associated with foreign exchange and finances, clearing customs, and then transporting the equipment from the port to your university. In addition, you would be responsible for any costs associated with installing and using the equipment. For example, the purchase of electrical adapters, transformers, and frequency converters. If required, software, reagents, accessories for the equipment, and of course, installation, calibration, operation, maintenance, and repair of the equipment on an ongoing basis.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens after you submit the application. Our review process consists of 3 steps. First, our staff at Seeding Labs reads all of the applications. We're looking for eligibility and suitability for our program, as well as overall quality of the application. We typically send about 2/3 of the applications on for external review. At the external review phase, we have at least 3 external reviewers read each application, and often more than 3. Our reviewers are volunteers, most are research scientists, and a few are international development experts. Reviewers score each application using 3 criteria. The first is case for need, the second is likelihood of productive use of the equipment, and the third is potential impact. Our top candidates coming out of external review are then invited to participate in an interview via Skype or phone. We may ask a few follow-up questions about your application during that interview if we have any, but the bulk of the interview is intended to be a 2-way conversation about the details of program participation and what would be required on each side. We do ask that the university vice chancellor or an equivalent official from your university or institution participate in the first portion of the interview in order to confirm that the administration of your institution is supportive of the application.
So what are we looking for in applications? First, we're looking for places where additional equipment will unlock potential and generate impact. Places where lack of equipment is a barrier to achieving specific research and/or education objectives, where sufficient knowledge, infrastructure, and supporting resources are available to make it feasible for you to use the equipment as proposed, and places where use of the equipment could positively impact the university, the local community, as well as the world. We are also looking for institutions that are willing and able to collaborate effectively on this shipment and in future applications. Excellent applications have strong institutional and departmental support. There's a clear and detailed plan to distribute, install, maintain, and use the equipment, as well as a responsiveness and ability to meet deadlines before and after the shipment, including required follow-up reporting.
All right, some tips for applicants that we've honed over the years. The very most important one we can give you is to answer all of the questions, including all of the subparts, as completely as possible. You should keep in mind that the application process is very competitive. Historically, we've had about 5 or 6 applicants vying for every available slot in the program. We do put a lot of thought into our application, and every question is there for a reason. Incomplete answers do not impress our reviewers and often provoke suspicion. Okay, second tip, if you have if you have an existing relationship with Seeding Labs, we want to remind you to remember that your written application will be evaluated by external reviewers who don't know anything about you. So please make sure that your application contains enough information to stand on its own merits. A second important tip, do include as much detail as possible. You really can't give too many examples in your application. Most of our applicants do tell stories that are similar in broad outlines, but the ones that really stand out from the crowd are the ones that give us a strong sense of who the applicant is and how they are uniquely suited to benefit from our program. So again, you can't give too many specifics and examples. A third tip, try to tell a consistent story. It's a red flag for us if the case for need and equipment request lists and then use proposals don't seem to fit together or make sense together. All of those sections should be mutually reinforcing and should tell the same story. Don't focus your entire application around one instrument, and especially not something rare or difficult for us to obtain, like a DNA sequencer or a mass spec or a highly specialized instrument for your particular field. What we're looking for are applicants who have a need for what we have to offer and everything we have to offer, meaning an entire container full of equipment ranging from consumables and glassware all the way up to much more sophisticated analytical instruments. We do our best to meet everyone's top priority need, but there are no guarantees. So the broader you can describe your need in the application, the better. Another tip, have a colleague review your application before submitting it. It never hurts to have more sets of eyes on an application. And if you have any questions at all, we are happy to answer them. You can reach us at application@seedinglabs.org. And just one more reminder, please feel free to email us right now if you have any questions. We will answer them during the webinar in a few minutes.
So how do you apply? Applications are typically submitted by a member of faculty or head of department on behalf of the department. The applications must be submitted in English, except for letters of support that we could accept in other languages. And then the applications must be submitted through our online application portal. We want to note at this point that our portal requires a current version of Chrome, Firefox, Safari, or Internet Explorer browsers only.
Okay, so what we'll do now is actually take you through the application portal so you can see how to log on and access the application. So if I will switch to very briefly, or not so briefly, I'll switch over to our application page. All right. Okay. So this is the application page. You'll see a link for this application page in the webinar slides, which we'll publish after the webinar, as well as if you access our request for applications on our website, you'll see a link to this logon page. So the first thing that you do on this logon page is to click Create New Account. For those of you who haven't accessed our application before, you should do this first step. For those of you who have accessed our application before and use this portal, you can go ahead and use your old application to log directly in. If you have forgotten your password that you set either this year or in previous years, please email us and we will send you your password so that you can access your account. So for those of you creating new accounts, once you click Create a New Account, it will ask you to enter in some information. And that's interesting. Not allowing us to fill this out.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay.
It's just slow.
Sorry about that. So one important thing is we ask for your university and department name. It's really helpful for us if you can follow the format that we've specified here, which is to put your university name first, a space, hyphen, and then your departmental name. Afterwards, it'll ask for information about your city and country. And sorry, it's loading a little bit slowly. I think the screen share is giving us a few issues on this, but it's pretty straightforward to see which fields you'll need to enter in. After you put in your university information, it'll ask you to put in your personal contact information. The screen share is terrible. All right, let's see if this will run a little bit better. And again, this is pretty straightforward to put in your salutation, your first name or given name, and last name or family name. Any of the fields that have a star next to them are required, whereas any fields that don't have a star next to them are optional. Wow, this is the first time that our website hasn't really worked on the screen share for us. So I apologize for the bad screen share on this, but hopefully you'll get an idea of what the page looks like and how to go through it. These registration pages are pretty straightforward, but if you do have any questions, of course, please do email us at cdlabs.org. Make the page smaller and smaller, easier and easier. Put it into everything to launch. Okay. Okay, so Christina is just entering in some of the required fields. We're having a little bit of a technical issue with the screen share, so the screen is showing up split here, but hopefully when you actually access it yourself, you're not actually going to see these split screens. And what I'm going to do here, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the screen share and see if we can get this to work a little bit better. So please hold on 1 second while I just see if I can reset the screen share.
So please keep your questions coming using the email address we had shared earlier, application@cdlabs.org. So we are happy to receive your questions, and we'll take those questions, we'll answer them as this webinar goes on. And if you later viewing the recorded version of this webinar, you can always also send your questions to the email address, application@cdlabs.org, and we'll do our best to reply as quickly as possible. We've always enjoyed receiving very excellent applications over the years, and we are hopeful that this new cycle will also be as amazing as previous one. So you're welcome to send us very strong applications, as most universities have always done, and we're happy to read them, review them, and get back to you. And hopefully we'll be working with some of you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So it looks like we got our screen share working, even though the text is a little bit small here. Christina's just entering the password. So when you get through the registration and you enter in your password, you'll be able to click
Create account.
Create account. And it will actually ask you to send, if you've received a test email, to confirm that your email address was entered in correctly. You can either click I have received the email, or if you want to continue without it checking the email, you can click the second option. Either way, you can click continue from here, and you'll be entered into the application portal. So the application portal is pretty simple. You'll just see that there is one option of application to enter, which is a 2018 instrumental access application. There is a blue apply button. So the first time you access the application, even if you've applied to us before, you'll want to hit this apply button to get access to the new 2018 application. All right, once you hit apply, it'll open up the application. And you can see that there are different sections in the application. Each of the sections is openable and closable by clicking the down arrow next to that section header. So you can easily flip through different sections and look at the sections that you want. To enter in information into the application, you'll see that there are fields and you can just type your information in. There's a couple places where it does request that you upload documents or download documents for a later upload, and you'll see them pretty clearly written out. As you go through the application, if you want to exit and start and go back to the application later, you can save the application. There's a button at the bottom which says Save Application. So you click that anytime you want to save. And it will give you, the first time you save, it'll give you a summary of everything that you haven't filled out. So ideally, when you're ready to actually submit, you don't see all of these things that haven't yet been filled out. If you want to go back to the application, you'll see we click Continue. And at the top of the application, you'll see two buttons. Once the first time that you enter information into the application, this application packet button will show up. And this application packet gives you an export of all of the questions with the answers that you've put in. If you want to take a look at just the questions themselves without answers, you can click on the question list button, and that will download the questions as a PDF that you can review offline. If you are returning to the application, so you're logging in again, you'll be logged into the home page, which should be, let's see. So we'll save it first. Oops, sorry. Here. So you click on the house icon to get back to the application portal homepage. So the next time you come and log in, if you started an application, this is the page that you'll see. Now, when you want to return to the application, make sure that you actually go to the edit application and not the apply button on the top. The apply will get you to a new application. If you've already started an application draft, you want to return to that application. So please go to the edit application button once you're returning to the application. And as you might have seen before, once you're ready to actually submit the application, there's a submit button right next to the save button when you open the application. Once you click submit, you should receive a confirmation from the website as well as an automated email message, and no further action is required. If you do happen to accidentally press the submit application before you're actually ready to submit the application, don't worry, just send us an email at application@citylabs.org and ask us to undo the submission. And we'll undo it so that you can continue working on your draft. It wasn't explicitly said during the registration, and you don't get to choose a username, but the email address that you enter when you're registering is your username, and of course the password is the password that you set during registration. So that's pretty much everything that you'll see in the application portal. And so if you have any questions on accessing the portal, you'll see a step-by-step guide for how to go to this portal posted to our website after this webinar, along with the webinar slides. And I think we'll pause and see if there's any questions that people have asked.
Yeah, that concludes the presentation that we had prepared today. Please note that you can find additional information that we did not cover here on the Call for Applications website, so please visit that. And if you have any questions now or in the future, we are always available via application@seedinglabs.org. I don't see any questions coming in yet, but there is a bit of a time lag on this broadcast, so let's pause for a little while to let any questions come in. In the meantime, we can answer some of our frequently asked questions. So some of the things that were asked commonly. One thing a lot of people want to know is whether or not there is a fee to apply. The answer is no, absolutely not. There's no application fee, and there's no monetary cost at all associated with the application process. The only commitment that we require at the time of application is that the applying institution is willing and able to pay the program fee if selected to participate. And as Chudo mentioned earlier, we invoice for payment around the time that you start equipment selection, and payment isn't due until after you have selected equipment, so that you will know what would be in your shipment and can verify that you're getting sufficient value for your money. Another question that we are asked often is whether it will be necessary for the institution to pay customs and import duties, and whether the equipment is considered a donation. The answer is that we really can't say for sure, because the laws surrounding customs and import regulations vary widely for different countries. However, we will work with you and your institution to meet the requirements specific to your country, including providing documentation that the shipment is a donation and intended for educational and/or research purposes. If your university has a procurement office, we strongly recommend that you check with them for advice about the specific import regulations and exemptions that may apply to your situation.
Okay, so the question is, someone has just asked a question. Is it possible to see a list of equipment currently available?
So we don't actually publish a list of the currently available equipment because our inventory fluctuates frequently, as we have donations coming in all throughout the year and shipments going out to participants as their shipments are getting fulfilled. So what we actually have on hand right at this moment or at any given moment in time is not the same as what would be available next month or next year. So what we do like to share is a list of the equipment that is has been available historically in our program. And if you would like an educated guess on the likely availability of any specific item, please contact us, and we're happy to let you know our history of getting that item and our best guess on our probability of being able to get that item.
Okay, another thing that we're asked about frequently is where the equipment comes from and what condition it's in. The answer is that surplus equipment is donated to Seating Labs from a variety of sources, including manufacturers and end users such as pharmaceutical companies and universities. We work with our donors to obtain high quality equipment to meet your needs. All of the glassware and consumables in our equipment are brand new and in full unopened cases. All of the consumables are new and in full unopened cases. Equipment and glassware can be either new or gently used. We do not ever accept items that are obsolete or customized to the extent that they could not easily be repurposed for other things. We verify with all of our donors that all the items we accept are fully functional at the time that they're donated. We don't accept them if they are not fully functional. And we also perform functional tests on equipment as feasible in our warehouse. But you should be aware that there are some items that really cannot effectively be tested in a warehouse setting. So anything that you would have to run a sample on or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I remember someone also asking if multiple departments in an institution can apply.
Yes, and the answer is that yes,
okay.
You can absolutely apply. We'll accept separate applications from multiple departments in the same cycle. Each application would be assessed individually, and if successful, multiple applications would result in multiple shipments to that university, with the university paying 2 separate program fees, one for each shipment. We will also, in some situations, consider accepting one single joint application from multiple departments if there's a collaborative effort between those departments and a compelling reason why this would be the best option for the university's situation. If you wish to discuss this, please email us at application@seatinglabs.org with a brief description of your situation to request pre-approval. And on a related note, another question that we're often asked is whether we will do repeat shipments. So if your institution or department has received equipment from Seating Labs in the past, you are eligible to apply again, as long as your institution remains eligible under the current guidelines and you have sufficient remaining need. Just as I mentioned earlier, in your application, include a clear explanation of your rationale for reapplying, and also provide enough information that a reviewer who doesn't know you're a repeat applicant would be able to understand your application.
So one of the kind of areas of questions that we get a lot from people is about the program fee. Can Seating Labs offer a discount for the fee? Can we raise funds for the program fee after we apply, or can we have someone else pay for the program fee? So the answer to most of those questions is, one, we cannot change the program fee. This represents already a subsidy of our actual operating costs. So unfortunately, Seating Labs cannot offer any discounts or changes to the program fee. We do require, as part of the application, a letter of support from the university vice chancellor or an equivalent to pay the program fee if selected to participate. And because that is an integral part of the application, we generally cannot accept groups who are planning to apply for funding after they apply to us. Thirdly, can you apply or can you use funding from external sources outside of your university or institution? Yes, that is permitted, but we do ask that you contact us at application@cdlabs.org to discuss your plans so that we can understand where the funding is coming from. We might suggest some changes to your letter of support, and ultimately, if you are wanting to apply for grants or other places external to cover the funding fee, we do want to have a discussion with you on that. Anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, I think that's all of the major questions.
Please, we've said it many times in the last few minutes, but we are happy to answer questions now or in the future. Email us at application@seedinglabs.org. All three of us actually monitor that account. You can find more information on the RFA webpage. Yeah.
And if you are new to apply to grants, we would recommend that you also watch an upcoming webinar that Christina and I will be delivering on June 7th, which is more generalized tips on finding, applying to grants, and reporting on your grants so that you can get your grant renewals from the agencies that offer renewals. So thank you for joining us today, and we're looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Thanks very much. We can't wait to see your applications.
Yeah, thank you.